Hi, I'm Tall Mike Wine. You can call me Mike. Welcome to my podcast. Don't let the name fool you. It is a podcast about wine, but it's also a podcast with just people that love wine, sipping wine, talking, lots of conversation, lots of wine, lots of fun. I hope that's all right. The cell phones have been silenced. The wine has been poured. Pour yourself some, unless you're driving. Why are there so many cup holders in today's vehicles, but not a proper wine glass holder? I just don't understand. Anyway, just like that, the podcast begins. This is episode number 5. Hello from the Vintner's Room at Nicholson Ranch Winery in Sonoma, California. My name is Mike Stone, your tall wine correspondent and show host. The downloads are continuing to come in. People like you listening to the podcast all over the country and outside of the country. Thank you to whoever it is in South Korea. And my new podcast friend, Moshe Cohen in Manchester, England. He has a podcast. He discovered my podcast. We've been chatting a little bit. His show is called In the Vineyard With. Yes, that's a fragmented sentence, but we'll let it go. Look for it if you're looking for a new wine podcast to check out. He interviews people in various parts of Europe. He's got some Greek people, and he's got some people from Bordeaux and Burgundy. He sounds like he knows a thing or two about wine. That brings the tally to 3 continents, 8 countries, 26 of these United States, with a warm welcome to Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. Wolf Trap, Virginia. Welcome aboard. Let's get on with the show. Right here, right now. I want to thank you for finding us and not tuning in. I've been saying tuning in, but it's really, people have to find us. There's no dial to tune to find podcasts. You have to actually go on an app and look for it and find it. So thank you very much for finding us. The podcast field is getting more competitive. What with a certain New Jersey rock legend and a certain former president getting in on the action. Yes, they have a podcast together. That is pod power, is what that is. Okay, to the show. Episode 5. My guest is fulfilling a few firsts for the Tall Mike Wine podcast. He is by far the youngest and first Japanese-born individual we've had on the show. He's currently working at a not very large winery in the Napa Valley as the winery coordinator. I guess you can explain what that means to me. Although I understand the whole thing about having titles at wineries. I have a couple of titles here. The title tells people you have a title, which I guess is impressive. It also means you just do a lot of things, right? My guest is Hiro Sogi. Welcome, Hiro. Hi, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Mike.
You're
excited to be here.
Oh, good. Yeah. It's my pleasure. You've been listening to the podcast, I know.
I've listened all the way from your first one to your most recent one with was it Michael Keenan?
Michael Keenan,
right?
exactly.
That was an exciting one. I enjoyed that story. The whole, how he was brought up and his childhood about wine and his winery.
This is what I want to do with the podcast. There are wine podcasts that simply talk about wine incessantly, and they talk about vintages and regions, and all that stuff has fascinated me for the longest time. But I have a feeling if you sit with people who aren't so into wine and you talk about that stuff, they're not going to listen for very long. And, I want people to enjoy my podcast because we talk about fun stuff. And winery, and I found when I started hanging out with wine people, when I was, older than you are now, we're going to talk about that in a moment. As I mentioned, you're the youngest guest by far. When I started hanging out with wine people, I found that they were people who like to talk about a lot of things and not just everyday things. Like, what did you watch on TV last night? A little more interesting stuff. You have a title, winery coordinator. And like I said, when you have a title at a small winery, it basically means you're here a lot and you do a lot of everything. So tell me what you do and don't do at the winery, if you can break it down for me.
All right. I started as a tasting room associate. So I just started off doing tastings, hosting guests when I started. But then now I'm kind of like an assistant manager when the manager's out. She just had a baby, so she was out on maternity leave for a little bit. What's her name? Hana.
Hana has a new baby?
Yeah. Little Aya. Little baby girl. Super sweet. Super cute.
Very nice.
Yeah. So when she was gone for a while, I was kind of the stand-in manager, helping manage the tasting room, inventory, keep an eye out on every single case that we have, whether it's on property or off property in our warehouses. Things specific to me would be when we get orders from distributors from out of state. We distribute to quite a number of states at the moment. So when we get orders from them, I am the one who goes into our system to make sure they receive the correct amount of wines, the correct vintage, the correct varietal. And that also includes exports also.
Okay.
We export to Japan, Korea, Canada.
Wow.
So all those orders, I handle half of the logistics of getting the wine out of the winery.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's a thing that I don't think about, because we, at Nicholson Ranch, we do not have a distributor. We do not sell the wine outside of the winery. We don't sell it to a big, wine middle person who then sells it to restaurants and wine shops and grocery stores and things like that. We sell it just here at the winery, and most of the wine goes out to people who have visited here and are in our club. And then they get the wine shipped to them 4 times a year. I think I might have been remiss. Let me just backtrack 1 second, because I wrote it down in the intro and then I skipped right over it. The name of your winery.
Yes.
It's written here in the intro, and then I think I try not to go word for word for what I've written here. Hiro is the winery coordinator at a small winery in the Napa Valley called Silenus.
Yes.
Silenus. That is Silenus in the Napa Valley. Okay, continue.
We're located just about 5 to 10 minutes north of the city of Napa in the Oak Knoll district.
Oak Knoll is the first real district in the Napa Valley, right? You get from the city, the town of Napa. I shouldn't say city because it's not a city. It's a town, but it's at the southern end of the Napa Valley. So geographically, you start going north and you hit all the famous wine regions. You're going to go through Oakville and Rutherford and St. Helena, and you're going to end up in Calistoga at the very top of the valley. But at the very lower end of the valley is Oak Knoll, almost in Yountville, right?
It's okay. We're at the border, just behind the border of Oak Knoll and Yountville. Yeah.
Who are some of the major players there at Silenus? We should give them a shout out.
All right. So shout out to Hana, I mentioned earlier. She is our tasting room manager and wine club.
With the new baby.
Also with the new baby. Louis Garcia is our production manager. He was the cellar master, but he moved on to production manager. Antonio Garcia is now our cellar master. They've taught me so much about production. When I worked in production during harvest, they were basically my boss during that time and showed me everything from picking grapes to what goes on in the crush.
Harvest is a really a magical time at wineries, especially small ones, because people like Hiro and I, who normally work with people and with sales-related things, we get to actually touch the equipment in the winery where they're making the wine. We just get to touch it, though. We don't get to really do anything with it.
It's so exciting to actually press buttons that did something.
And who makes the wine?
Our winemaker is Tim Callahan.
Okay. So Tim makes the wine. And what is the case production over there?
Our case production is about 5,000 to 7,000 for our Silenus label.
Silenus makes primarily reds. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, that is fair to say. We have majority reds with 2 whites and 1 rosé.
And that leads us into what it is we're sipping right now. We are sipping a Pinot Blanc. This is a 2018 vintage, so it's a nice fresh white wine from Silenus. What can you tell me about this? It's really good. We're sitting here on a Friday afternoon recording this. It's the last Friday of February, and it's about that time. It's about time to have a little bit of wine. This is delicious. Tell me about it. Tell me about the grapes, where they come from, how the wine is made.
This Pinot Blanc, the fruit is from Yountville, from the Blockhouse Vineyard. I was told Pinot Blanc used to be one of the most widest planted grape in Napa a long time ago. But then once Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Sauvignon Blanc, and those big hitters came into play, everyone took out Pinot Blanc and planted reds because it made more profit.
Right.
Yeah. So
Certain grapes over the years have been shaken out to be the minor players, even though they have a big footprint in other parts of the world. Pinot Blanc, of course, is huge in the Alsace region of France. They're growing quite a bit of it up in Oregon, but not a lot of it here in California.
Right.
This wine is delicious. Like I said, when I first poured it into the glass before we started rolling, it kind of smells like honey. Maybe honey with a little bit of some kind of tropical fruit dipped in it. What kind of fruit are you getting on this?
I used to always get a lot of the fresh apples. Not the crisp, like when you bite into it, not the crisp ones, but the one that's has a little more of the...
Like a red delicious apple?
Yeah, kind of like that one.
Almost like smelling some freshly pressed apple cider with a little honey added to it.
Yeah.
It's very good. It's nice and refreshing.
Yeah, so I believe this was stainless steel fermented first and then moved into neutral oak for a little bit.
It does have a nice texture to it. The oak probably gives it that little bit of smooth, almost creaminess. Not too much. I bet it wasn't in that neutral oak for very long, I'm guessing.
No, not very long.
Well, I'm glad to have you here in the studio, the Vintner's room here. The couches that were here last week have been taken outside because we are now pouring wine outside and we need more space because the weather's been nice and we're getting a lot of visitors. It's very, very cool to see wine country wake back up again after the latest round of COVID shutdowns. But we were able to put some couches in here today and set up a little bit of sound deadening material. Do you like the studio?
I do like this studio. Very homely.
Do you like the coasters?
I love the coasters. Oh my gosh. I was waiting for you to talk about it.
So
it's got a logo on it.
If you follow me on Instagram, you have seen the coaster. This all started out as the idea for me to have something to hand to people here at the winery if the subject of the podcast came up. And I'm not, when people roll in here, that's not the first thing I tell them. My name's Mike. I host a podcast. Welcome to Nicholson Ranch. If it seems like a thing they might want to know about, then I start talking about it. Right. Talked to our very brilliant office person here, Amanda, and I said, maybe it'd be fun to have a postcard. And she said, okay, I'll design a postcard for you. And then she came to me and said, how big do you want it? I said, well, I want it to be like a postcard, but maybe a little smaller, but bigger than a business card. So she gave me a few different ideas for sizing. And one of the sizes was like a small square that was like a business card, only square. And as soon as I saw the square, I thought, well, coasters are square. Let's make it as big as a coaster. And she said, well, you could probably actually get coasters made. And boom. She finished the design, sent it in, and voila, we have coasters. I was thinking, should we do a coaster giveaway?
Ooh.
Do you like that idea?
I do like that idea. Do I get one?
I already gave you some.
That's right.
I gave him 2 coasters. If you want more, you can have more. But what I want to do is just to see if anybody's listening or paying attention or wants to play a game. If you email me, my email address is tallmikewine@gmail.com. I'll send you a couple of coasters. So you have to send me your address. And I'm not going to add you in any mailing lists or anything like that, I promise. This is just for me to send you some coasters. You can have them at home when you listen to the Tall Mike Wine podcast, wherever you are. So I'll send you a couple of coasters. I'm not going to send a bunch because it was a limited run, and these are definitely limited. But maybe for the first 10 people that email me at tallmikewine@gmail.com, I will send them a couple of coasters. You like that?
Want to throw in a bottle?
Throw in a bottle of wine?
Yeah, Nicholson bottles. People might like that.
I don't know about that. I'd have to talk to Deepak about that.
A little more exposure.
That's right. And then I'm going to say, send me an email. I'll send you a couple of coasters. And then I'm going to give a disclaimer. Ready for the disclaimer? This offer is limited.
There we go.
That's it. That's the disclaimer. Your mileage may vary. It's the last Friday in February. You are listening to this show in the first part of March because I'll be editing and then waiting for a few days before I put this up. By the time this airs, it's out there in the world. You, Hiro, will have had your 24th birthday.
Yes, that is right.
So happy birthday.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me as well.
Now, at 24, working in a winery in the Napa Valley, born in Japan. That's quite a journey. Let's go back to Japan. Tell me about your early life in Japan. Where were you born?
I was born in a small village called Hakuba. In Japanese, it's Hakuba Mura. Mura means village, and Hakuba means white horse. So it means white horse village. It is about 4 hours northwest from Tokyo by train.
When you say village, do you mean a very small place?
Yeah, it's just a really small place. It's in a way, it's like a bowl. It's a valley, but it's kind of like a bowl. It's a very famous ski resort in the area. There's 10 ski resorts, I believe, right next to each other.
Oh, man.
That surrounds the village, the town. I believe they had the 1996 Winter Olympics there. I was born there, and I grew up there only for a brief period of my life, about 4.5, 5 years.
And then what happened?
And then I moved to the U.S.
Oh.
And now I'm here.
Okay, so you're in Japan as a baby, as a small child, a toddler. This is with your parents?
Yeah, both my parents, just my mom and my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad has family in Santa Barbara.
Oh.
So my uncle and my aunt and their 2 daughters. Oh, it was kind of like a homestay situation for a little bit.
You mean they invited your dad and his family to come to America to try it out, or did he want to move here?
My dad wanted to move here,
Okay.
for sure. My dad is a chef, and he is also a sommelier.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I think
He's got some titles.
I think he just wanted to be closer.
You're a chef
Right.
and a sommelier in a village so far from Tokyo. You got to get to the city. You got to get somewhere where there's more people and more of a culture of dining and drinking wine.
Right. And back then, even Japan, drinking wine is something that's new for a lot of people. If you go to the countryside, there's no wine drinking culture, only in the cities like Tokyo and probably like Kyoto, Osaka. You'll probably find more wine there, but back then, it was a very...
Way back then, 20 years ago.
Yeah, things changed. Now Japan has their own wine region a little bit.
Okay. What's it called?
It's in the Yamanashi prefecture at close to the base of Mount Fuji. And there's like different Japanese wineries now that use it. Their main grape is called Koshu.
Koshu?
Yeah, that's a Japan specific Vitis vinifera.
Is that a white grape or a red grape?
It's a white grape.
Okay.
It's kind of like a Chenin Blanc.
Okay.
So I've heard. It's a very neutral kind of grape. So they use a lot of techniques with the barrels and fermentation to give it a little more flavor.
Koshu.
Yeah.
All right. So your dad decides to load up the family and head to Santa Barbara. So that was next, right? You lived in Santa Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
For how long?
I started kindergarten and then did part of first grade. So what is that? Only maybe like 2 years at most?
Okay.
Yeah, very brief.
It's hard to think about how long that was when you were that age, because as a child, you're not thinking in terms of years. You're just thinking, why are we moving again?
Right. An interesting thing when I moved to the U.S. is that I was so young, I didn't have the concept of moving to a whole different country.
Sure. They put you on a plane.
Yeah. I got to play Super Mario on the plane for like the 14-hour ride. And then
What a bonus.
we land, and all of a sudden, like, I can't quite understand what people are saying. But even that didn't bother me because I was so young.
I guess you didn't know there was going to be a whole new language to learn.
Yeah.
But at that age, you just adapted.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to learn English?
I was speaking to my friends in English probably around a little before first grade. Or maybe a little bit into first grade. So
You just picked it up then.
yeah, I just picked it up.
I mean, little kids, they just pick up what's going on around them, right?
Oh yeah, and they're so resilient. It's crazy.
I'm going to take another sip of wine right now.
Me too.
I'm getting more and more of that apple thing. Apple, it's got the texture. It's not sweet, but it does have kind of the flavor of honey, like I said. I just keep coming back to that.
It really does. I actually never used to pick up the honey as much, but now that you mention it.
It's all about the power of suggestion. So you're in Santa Barbara for a couple of years, and then why did the family move here then?
Yeah, we moved to Napa my first grade. I was in Napa for the longest time of my life, I think, till sophomore year of high school.
And your dad moved your family up here because he wanted to work as a chef in the Napa Valley?
I think he just wanted to be closer to wine.
Okay.
Yeah, back
I can relate to that.
Back then, Santa Barbara has their little wine region now, but it wasn't as big. And Napa was always my dad's longing as a chef and a wine lover to be.
He had the calling.
Yeah, he did.
Napa Valley was calling. So you moved to Napa, and now you live in Sonoma with your family.
Yeah. In between, right after the second year of high school, I actually moved to Hawaii for 2.5 years.
How did that happen?
My dad got a job at the Mauna Kea Resort in the Big Island of Hawaii. He was in between jobs. He was kind of looking around. And his old boss at the Silverado Resort asked if we wanted to go to Hawaii. And we decided, yeah, let's just see what happens.
And there's a lot of Japanese people.
A lot of Japanese
in
heritage.
Hawaii.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Okay, so a couple years in Hawaii.
But no wine.
Lots of pineapples.
Lots of pineapple. There's pineapple wine.
Yeah.
That was the thing.
Yeah. All right, and then back here?
And then back to Sonoma.
So he had a job there, and I'm guessing it was probably pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. Beach was right, kind of like within our neighborhood area. It was like 5 minutes by car just to go to a beach.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, and then the calling to come back closer to the grapes.
The biggest thing was me coming back for college. Yeah, I went to Sonoma State.
Hiro's getting older. It's time to send him off to college.
Yeah. So we were looking at dorms and stuff. And then my dad actually found a job in Sonoma.
Oh, so they were going to stay in Hawaii. Now, why did you want to go to Sonoma State?
It was closer to home. Home for me was Napa at the time.
Right.
And I wanted to go to a small school, nothing really big. The biggest thing was actually I played tennis competitively in Hawaii. And then I got to a level where a lot of colleges started noticing. I got an offer from Sonoma State to play on their team.
Okay. But then your dad found a job here.
Yes, he worked for Ledson Winery.
Just up the highway from us.
A little castle.
Here in Sonoma, Ledson. So you come back home with the family and settle in Sonoma this time. Finish high school here?
No, I finished high school in Hawaii.
In Hawaii?
Yeah.
All right.
And then 3 days after my graduation, I moved back to Sonoma.
Oh, goodness. That's a lot of moving for somebody your age. That's quite an interesting story. So then you went to Sonoma State first for tennis, but Sonoma State also happens to have a fairly well-known wine business program. When did you decide you wanted to get into that?
Actually, from the time I started college, I knew I wanted to do wine business. One, because I grew up around wine. I also heard that Sonoma State had a very good wine business that was one of the best in the area. So I figured, let's do the best thing that this school has to offer.
So you had an idea to go into business school, to study business in college, which a lot of people do. It's a pretty popular basic major. And there was this wine business program. We're pouring the next wine now. There we go. Sound effects are real. And so you're at Sonoma State now, studying wine business, playing tennis. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But my life shifted pretty drastically in my first year. Okay. Weird to say it myself, but I got decently good at tennis within the 2.5 years that I was there in
You're already
Hawaii.
good at tennis if they're recruiting you.
Yeah, I used to be a beginner when I started in Hawaii.
Oh,
but then
okay.
he
We're
did-
talking about Hawaii.
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking
Backtracking.
about your evolution as a tennis player at Sonoma State. But wait, they brought him in to play tennis. He must have already been good.
So I played a little bit as a freshman at Vintage High. Looking back, I didn't know how to play. I could hit a forehand. That was about it. Then I came to Hawaii, and I started as a mere beginner who really didn't know anything much about the game. And then I played and played and played for hours on end. I won a few tournaments in Hawaii.
Are you talking about playing like hours on end, day after day after day after day?
Oh, yes, day after day.
One of those things where
Yes.
you're like, live it, breathe it, sleep it, eat it.
Exactly.
Private coach, lots of lessons.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I started, school ended at 3:16, odd time. Ended at 3:16 exactly. Then from 4 p.m. to maybe 10, 11 p.m., I was at the courts with my coach, just hitting balls all day long. So I got pretty good.
Okay.
It was so much repetition. And then I built up my name and my reputation on the Big Island. You know, I felt like I was one of the better players, but when I came to California, I was so beaten down.
Welcome to a bigger pond.
Absolutely. You know, the playing style was very different for me, and there was
Okay.
a part of me that couldn't keep up. I played on the team, but I was not the best player on the team. Then I found dance. My whole life took a 180.
Now we're going to swerve into something entirely different. Now, I know all of this about Hiro. I did not know about the tennis, but I do know that you're into dance and you studied dance at Sonoma State. So when did dance come into your life and how?
It was my freshman year of college. I needed one elective class, and that happened to be this hip-hop class.
Okay.
And that time I was doing both tennis and dance. But then I was feeling a little discouraged from my skill as a tennis player. And so I started kind of looking for other things, and dance just happened to be right there. And so I kind of just dropped tennis.
Okay.
I'm pretty just kind of dropped it all.
In what year?
2015. That would have been
What year of college?
freshman year of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just kind of I went for tennis, and then I just didn't play tennis much after that.
Well, things change. People change. So you've obviously devoted a good chunk of your life to studying dance now, since you started in your freshman year of college, and I know you're still studying dance. It's hip hop, right?
My main is hip hop. Yeah, Sonoma State. I would say it was mostly modern and contemporary, but now they're changing the curriculum to encompass all styles.
Okay.
Which means more African-based,
Okay.
African origin type
Right.
dancing, ballet, jazz, hip hop, inclusive to all styles.
I'd love to learn how to tap dance.
Oh, me too. I do not know how to tap dance.
You might have a better shot than I would because you've already got a dance background. But wearing the tap shoes has always appealed to me. Just the idea of having those special shoes that make that sound. Tap, 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 tap. So tell me what it is about dance that speaks to you. I will admit to you right now on the podcast that while I've been to dance performances and enjoyed them, I still really don't get, in quotes, dance. Just like I really don't understand poetry, even though I've heard some poetry that I really like. You hear poems once in a while. It's like, oh, like that young lady that spoke at the inauguration.
Right.
Why is dance a thing, Hiro? Explain what you get from it and maybe give me an idea as to how I could appreciate it more.
From a historical aspect, dance it wasn't dance, but it was something people did as a community just to bring community together. I think there's something about doing a movement, physical movement in unison amongst other people that gives you a sense of place. Even when you might not have, maybe when you didn't feel like you had a place, it gives you this sense of place and comfort being in this shared place. I think that's what dance is from a historical aspect, and it still holds very true today. What I love about dance, one is physicality. I've always been a very physical person. So
You went from tennis, something that wears you out physically, good workout. You get to play a game. That's good. to dance, also very physical. Okay.
Yeah. Something about just being able to express whatever it is has always been very appealing to me. No matter what it was, and whether it's art, painting, poetry. Like poetry, dance is also very ambiguous at times. There's a lot of performances I've done where I have no idea what I'm dancing about, but I enjoyed it absolutely for the physicality of it.
Okay. That's a great answer. That's some good depth there. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That is great.
And yeah, like wine, people say wine is expression of terroir, the winemaker, the fruits. It's a lot more chemistry and math based than dance can be. I think that's why I've loved dance and wine. Anything expression based always gets my attention, no matter what it is.
I love that. That's a great way to say it. By the way, I did queue up one of the videos from your troupe and played it for my girlfriend Sabrina, who has an extensive dance background, by the way.
Oh.
She is from Brazil.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And still loves to dance and lives it and breathes it. Usually there's lots of good, maybe pseudo-African rhythms to it. All right?
Right.
And I showed her one of your videos with your group, and her reaction, I kid you not, "Oh, he's such a cutie."
Thank you, Sabrina.
But I think she appreciated it. But I don't know that hip-hop is really a thing that she can look at and say, "Oh, yes, I love this hip-hop." It's pretty, it's a youthful thing, right?
Right.
We moved on to the next wine, by the way. If you're paying attention at home, we started with a lovely white wine, a Pinot Blanc. And both of these wines are from Hiro's winery, Silenus. Why don't you tell us about this wine that we're drinking now? This is a red wine.
So this is our 2018 Silenus Grenache. It comes from the exact same vineyard as our Pinot Blanc, so the Blockhouse Vineyard in Yountville. And from what I'm told, the Blockhouse Vineyard has 6 rows of the Grenache and 6 rows of the Pinot Blanc. And Silenus were lucky enough to get fruit from 2 of those rows each. So this is a very small production, Grenache, and tasting room exclusive, so we don't sell it anywhere.
Oh, wow.
In the tasting room.
Well, thanks for bringing the bottle.
Absolutely.
How many cases of this one were made?
Ooh, good question. Around a little over 100, I believe.
100 cases.
I will have to fact check myself.
This is small production. Wow. It's really got this great red fruit going on. And that's what I think of when I think of Grenache. I think of red fruit. And a lot of times it has pretty high acidity. When it's young, this is not super acidic, which makes it very easy to drink right now.
Yeah.
As I am doing.
Our Grenache is definitely on the lighter side than what I've had in my experience. And
well, it's not like one of those Southern Rhone Grenache-based Châteauneuf-du-Pape wines.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this didn't spend a lot of time in barrel, and maybe not even a lot of new oak on this, because it really has a nice freshness to it, a great fruit characteristic. It's big, it's pretty bold, but it's not a big oaky, heavy red.
Yes,
this is actually a nice wine to sip on a sunny afternoon, like we are doing right now.
Exactly.
The sun is shining here in Sonoma. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. My favorite thing about this Grenache is this white peppery smell that I always get off the nose. It reminds a lot of Japanese dishes has white pepper on it, especially like ramen. Uses a lot of white pepper depending on a ramen, but this one pairs really well with like
now I have to sniff it again.
Like salt, a shio ramen or shoyu ramen. This one is fantastic.
So you think this goes well with Japanese cuisine?
Any lighter wines, because Japanese food is very simple in its flavor and components, I think lighter wines tends to pair very well.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So you're in a dance troupe. Why don't you give them a plug right now?
Shout out to Neverest. That it was my main dance group. We are disbanded. Now we all decided to go different roads individually. I know, a bit of a shocker after.
He just blew my mind. Never Rest is, it's still out there though on YouTube. You can find the videos. That's Never Rest with only one R in the middle.
Right. It's Mount Everest with the N in front.
Oh.
We named it because just never rest on your dreams.
Okay then.
No matter what it is.
Well, let's talk about your dreams. You're in a dance troupe. You help run a winery. That all sounds quite ideal for a guy your age. Tell me about Hiro in the future.
In the future, my biggest dream right now is to have my own dance studio with a wine bar. That's something I came up with about a year ago,
Okay.
I believe. I have a lot of friends who teach at dance studios, and when I go, all the parents are on their phones, nothing to do, because their kids are dancing.
Okay.
And dance classes are usually about an hour, maybe not even an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And that's not much time for the parents to do stuff, whether it's groceries or go back home. So I figured, hey, what if there's a little bar for parents to maybe get like a small glass while they're waiting?
See, originally I thought he wants to have a dance studio and a bar, and you would have dance classes for adults. And they would be drinking. And this is like every bar I ever went to in my 20s was like there was a DJ or there was a band on the weekends, and people were improving their dance moves by continuing to drink. That's what I was thinking. But this is a much better concept. You have the kids learning to dance and taking the classes in one room. You have the adults waiting for them, having a few. Why not? I like the concept.
And of course, I would always encourage the parents to drink responsibly as they're driving their kids home. But it wouldn't hurt for them to find a little special bottle for the night.
Yeah. That sounds great.
But that dream has shifted a little bit to now where I have partnered with two of my other friends to build a creative complex, hopefully. And that creative complex will be a space not only for dancers, but other artists, vocal artists, writers,
podcasters.
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Just a space for people to create freely and authentically, but also feel safe at the same time.
I love that.
Yeah, but then also have a little bar. And so, not just wine, but beer. I love beer. Craft beer is amazing. Whiskey. I love whiskey. Yeah, just like everything.
You're on the move, man. It's going to happen for you. The next topic is biology. I want to tread very lightly here on this next thing. It's something that has to do with wine, alcohol, and East Asian people. I guess perhaps about a third of them, from what I've been reading. It's always been kind of a curiosity with me. I've had Asian friends throughout the years, of course, and I drink a lot of wine. I go out to bars. I drink. When they drink, they exhibit a thing. The medical term is the alcohol flushing response. Sometimes it is casually called Asian glow. Do you know what this is?
Oh, I live it.
You do?
I do.
Are you in the?
I get it.
Are you in the 37 percentile?
I am in that percentile.
So it's. Tell me more about this. I mean, I've seen it happen, and I find it sort of unbelievable. And what I just was reading about it yesterday because I had this in my head to ask you about. It's a deficiency of an enzyme called aldehyde dehydrogenase 2. Which means your body is just processing the alcohol in a strange way, and it gives you a little glow, a red tone.
Yeah. My cheeks will get kind of flushed. I don't know if it's happening now.
They look the same as when you came in.
Yeah, so after a lot of alcohol, I will see that my chest area will kind of be a little more red. My cheeks are a little red. My eyes are a little more sleepier. I think it doesn't bother me.
No?
It's not something that like hurts or itches or burns or anything. I think
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Because you might want to avoid alcohol if it does that.
Right.
I liken it to some people can't eat spicy foods, right? And there are other people that say, bring it on. Your body can handle it or it can't handle it.
Right.
It's just an interesting thing. And trust me, I'm doing everything I can to not sound like I'm bringing up a stereotype, okay?
I think it's just
It's a medical
It's a
fact.
fact.
It's a medical
It's a
fact. I've never had a serious conversation with anyone about it. And it's usually more of a tragic situation where people are laughing about it or trying to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not pretty.
Right.
Well, thank you for shedding a little bit of light on that.
No, absolutely. I've never considered myself high tolerance to alcohol either. I consider myself a little more of a lightweight. And so I feel like I get fleshed a little faster than I think a lot of other Asian people.
Okay.
Unless it's like Japanese women tend to be very petite, very thin. They get fleshed really fast. And I'm kind of like next.
You're the next step
I'm
up.
the next step from that.
He is quite a small person. I mean, you're not a small person. You're just not very tall.
Yeah, I'm only 5'5".
Okay.
And I weigh like 125? Maybe not even 125. 115 and 120. Right.
Next to me, you look really small.
Yes, because you're
I'm a foot taller than you are.
Tall Mike Wine.
And I've got about 100 pounds on you.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy wine region. Tell me about a trip you want to take one day to the wine region of your choice.
I want to go to Yamanashi in Japan.
Oh, you do?
I do. I've never been. I've done my college business final on the region and why it would be so cool to distribute that wine. But I've never been personally. So I just want to know what kind of wine my people makes.
Mm-hmm. How big of a region is it? How many acres do they have planted?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Come on, you did your college final.
I did my research.
You should have brought it with
that
you.
was like 2 years ago.
You should have brought it with you.
It's very small. I will say it's very small.
Is it smaller than, say, Amador County? Amador.
I think it is.
Amador is pretty small.
Amador is small. I think it is a little bit smaller.
Okay.
There's very few vineyards only because the climate isn't the most ideal for grape growing.
But they're at the base of a big mountain. And we know that that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
To be in the mountain valley. But it does have to get warm.
Yeah. Japan, it's very humid.
Okay.
So I think it's a moisture problem a lot of the times.
Right.
So they have to do more with the canopy control.
Okay.
More management, different style of management.
It's all about choosing the right grape, too.
Yeah.
And they've got the grape that's called what?
Koshu.
Koshu. A white wine grape. Well, if you track down a bottle of wine from that region, be sure and bring it to me. And we'll share it. Okay? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
I did have fun.
Good.
Thank you, Mike.
The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, edited, produced, and maintained by yours truly. If you have feedback for me, send me an email. It's tallmikewine@gmail.com. You may tweet at me at tallmikewine69. If you're interested in what I'm sipping at home or things that are happening here at Nicholson Ranch, you can check out my Instagram at tallmikewine. I took some nice pictures of Bud Break. Did I send them to you?
Yes, you did. You showed it to me in person yesterday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You know.
And you posted it today.
It's all just a blur to me.
It was beautiful.
This thing we call life. Tall Mike Wine is the Instagram handle. And don't forget the coasters. This offer is limited. Hey, cheers from the Vintner's Room at Nicholson Ranch in Sonoma. Thanks for finding the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.